Anastarcia Palacious is a best-selling author, television host, transformational speaker, and media coach. Anastarcia has over 70,000 hours of public speaking experience and has filmed over 800 episodes of live TV in the past 5 years. As a master storyteller, she has coached over 340 international business leaders in 43 countries on camera confidence, public speaking, and style. Anastarcia is a master moderator and has also served as the moderator at the 9th Regional Conference of Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians in 2014, as the moderator of the annual meeting of the Boards of Governors of the IDB in 2016, and that same year moderated the Bahamas Independence Celebration. She has also co-moderated the first National Bahamas Debate Series in 2021. A former marketing manager for Atlantis, the social media manager for the first Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival, and the former associate director of advancement for the Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center, she has worked with some of the most well-known brands in the Bahamas. As the owner of the Socialite Media, Anastarcia brings the same creativity and focus that allowed her to build her personal influencer brand to individuals, businesses, and organizations. She has provided her communication expertise in national campaigns for women and youth rights. As the Youth Ambassador of the Bahamas of the Commonwealth in 2007 to 2009, the College of the Bahamas Student Youth Union President from 2008 to 2009, and the University of Miami Student Government Chief of Staff External from 2010 to 2011, Anastarcia has traveled to over 15 countries around the world to advocate for and create legislation regarding youth rights. She has served on several government boards over the years. Anastarcia is a graduate of the University of Miami and the College of the Bahamas. She is listed on Freeport City Council's Wall of Fame and has won and been nominated for numerous awards. Anastarcia was named a Top 49 Millennial this year. She is married to entrepreneur, environmentalist, and businessman Carlos Palacious. The couple has 2 children, Cairo and Chosen. Welcome, Anastarcia Palacious. All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited. I am Dr. Vernita Glenn-White. I go by Dr. V, and I am your brilliant solutionist and executive coach consultant for highly ambitious, highly achieving women and a few good men. And now I've added to the elite because things are just growing and happening. I'm excited to have my Sarah, a good classmate, companion. I think she's a friend to the Vibe Tribe, and I call her Star, but I'll let her say her full name, and I'm excited that she's given her time to share with me and with you also. Let's welcome Anastarcia.
Hey everyone, thank you so much to my good Sora Dr. V for having me on. And it's just been a journey. Dr. V and I have been together in self-development for the past, I want to say 3 to 4 years. And so it's just been beautiful growing together, seeing each other in different spaces and being able to celebrate the growth that we do see in each other. And yeah, my full name is Anastarcia Palacious. It's a mouthful, like it's a whole lot. Dr. V, could you imagine being like a 4-year-old and trying to spell that thing out, Anastarcia, like long?
I didn't think about that. Right. You did have to grow up with this.
Right. And then, my last name, originally, my maiden name is a bit shorter, but then I married a Palacious. And now I think both my first name and my last name have 10 letters each. So I'm walking around with half the alphabet, but God is good.
And now you see why we call her Star.
So much easier. So much easier.
Yes, but she is made for that name, and you will see why as we get into our conversation today. So, Star, if you did not know, maybe you heard me say this, but I know the people who watch me know, I tend to say my tagline is embrace your brilliance and expand your life. So I want to know your thoughts about what does that mean when you hear both of those parts of embrace your brilliance and expand your life?
Yeah, I love that, Dr. B. And I'm so grateful that you've taken on this mantle to encourage us to do the same. I think what it means for me is that you get to own who you are. You get to own the light in you. And some people, I think, are blessed with the opportunity to do that from a very early age. Like they're in built-in supportive communities, their parents or maybe their teachers see a light in them, and very early on they encourage that. And maybe they have great friends who do the same. And so I think like elite athletes, for example, must have had that opportunity. Many of them start very young, very well-known musicians who start very young. Many of them have that story. Some don't, but many do. But I think for most of us who have not been in a position where we see ourselves as elite athletes, our gifting may look a bit different. And it comes so naturally to us that sometimes we don't recognize it for what it is. Or we might recognize it for what it is, like I did in my case. And I had, great teachers that saw it in me and great parents that took me to all the things they needed to take me to let it shine. And yet, Dr. V, I was still afraid to fully embody it because I'd had negative experiences with peers and colleagues who made me feel like I was being too much or I was doing too much. And so for me, there was a repercussion associated with fully being my light, right? Fully being star, shining brightly. And that involved hate and envy and jealousy, and I couldn't fit in anymore. And so it took me coming to the place where you and I both met, joining the Motivating the Masses campus, for me to say, like, no, I can be me. I can embrace myself fully. I can embrace the brilliance that is my light, right? And brilliance and light are one and the same. It's about shining. It's about glowing. I can embrace that. And then I've seen my life just go on a different trajectory. Now I'm happier in my body. I'm happier in my home. And then I also see the other parts of life that we want to expand, love, relationships, wealth, grow, because I own me and I own all of me and all my extra and all my light. And so I absolutely love that that's your saying and your tagline. And I hope for those who are watching who've not yet fully embraced that you get to look for the part of you that's always been there, whether it's been honed and encouraged or dimmed, or whether you've never even recognized it because it's just so natural to you, and that you get to fully embody that, develop that, and watch the results that come.
Oh, that is perfect. I mean, we could end the conversation here, but we have a lot to go. But you said that so beautifully, and I love how you tied that in. One thing that you did say that I want to expand on, you talked about elite athletes, and I'm not an elite athlete. I played a little bit. Well, I consider cheerleading a sport. Others may think differently, but I mean, I was like, I was in competitions and stuff. But anyway, but it's interesting with the elite athletes, they do get praised for their brilliance. But if our brilliance is shown differently, a lot of us don't get treated like those elite athletes. They are cultivated, they have all the support. But if your eliteness or your brilliance is in your mind or something like that, I thought it was very interesting that you say that it's the rejection or the envy or not fitting in, when it's like you're using what you have. But I just thought that was interesting to pull that out. I never thought about that. But I did hear you say that you had people cultivate your brilliance at a young age, and teachers. I say brilliance is two different things. I say there's a learned brilliance and a born brilliance. And I want to know your thoughts. So for me, how I define it, your learned brilliance, I see that as mostly your talents. Things like your degrees, you probably went to school for it, you were trained to do something, and then your born brilliance is like your natural gifts, things that just show up and you're good at it. Let me know how that resonates with you, or if you have some examples, or if you think there's a difference.
No, I definitely agree. So my learned brilliance, it's so funny. I have a couple different degrees, and my first one was an associate's because I'm based in the Bahamas. I didn't mention that earlier, but I'm based in the Bahamas, and I attended a university here before I went off to University of Miami, all about you. And so my first degree is an associate's in mass communications, actually, but that was never something that I thought that I was going to go and do. So let me back up some. My born brilliance, Dr. V, is the ability to communicate and to communicate well. And this was recognized by my parents very early on because I was speaking in like full sentences like before I turned 15 months, which was very unusual, right? Most kids, people who have babies know your kids don't speak in full sentences until about 2.5. I did it a year before. And so my parents knew that I would be a talker. They didn't necessarily know what would come of that, but my teacher certainly did. Me being a talker meant that their classes were distracted, that people weren't paying attention because I was talking all the time. So I was obviously often put very far away or very close to the teacher's desk so that they could try to control me. They wasn't stopping me talking. But what they did, Dr. V, that helped was that they started to let me, when I would finish my work, recite poetry or learn a script from a play. And then they started to put me on stage, right? Because all they wanted was to get me away from the other students. So I could not disrupt their classes anymore. What can I say? And so I've had years of training and speaking in drama and in the arts and participating in our national arts festivals and in storytelling, just doing this work of communicating through my mouth. And so you would think that it's a natural fit that I would continue in mass communications. But no, I really wanted to study international studies and political science. And so I went on and I did those degrees at the University of Miami, came back and could not find a job working with our foreign service. And so I ended up going into a manager training program at the Atlantis Resort, which was at the time the largest resort in the Bahamas and one of the largest in the Caribbean and the world at large. And at the Atlantis Resort, after I was done my manager training program, I used my communication skills and a little faith with God to create a book about myself and what I thought I could bring to the organization. I met with the vice president of food and beverage, and he wanted to bring me on to become the marketing manager for F&B for Atlantis. So I think I was about 23 or 24, and I was managing marketing for 40 restaurants and bars. And that was another learning experience for me. I had already had a skill set that was kind of born and innate, but now it was being honed by having to get these objectives done for these restaurants. And I left that and I went into business for myself. At the time, social media was just really blowing up around getting businesses involved. And I recognized that no one in the Bahamas was doing it. So there was this avenue for me to take that on. And so I went into social media marketing, and I have had my marketing company now for about 7 years. But the truth is, Dr. V, that it's not my passion, right? It's a learned brilliance. I can do it, and the campaigns will go well, right? And I've been pretty successful at it. I've had a company, I've had employees, I've done that, but it's not where my greatest talents lie, right? And so that's my learned brilliance. But like my born brilliance, the one that God gave me, where I feel alive and I get to shine, that's me showing up on camera with you. That's me being on a stage and empowering people. That's me being on a stage and encouraging someone to take a next step. So that's, I think, the difference between my born brilliance and my learned brilliance. And now I'm at this place in my life where I'm trying to bring them both together and figure out how can I continue to use my skills in marketing, but to help to serve a community by, training and development. And so that's, I think, over time, we go to learn that perhaps we can converge the two, but very often we're operating in both spheres.
Wow, if you've seen my face and I'm like, wow, what for real? I'm trying to hold it together is because I've seen Star like in action on stage and things like that. And I was like, yeah, you're definitely great at that, but not even thinking the behind the scenes, or it's like that's what you've been doing. And then knowing and hearing about your company is like, wait, that really wasn't your passion. So it's like when you're interviewing people, like you see people and you see them doing their thing, and it's like the story behind that. It's just fascinating to me. So I was like, all this time I had no idea. But yes, I love that you shared that and you led into the next part of really like, do we need both? I think you've already answered that. I do think we need both. And I love how you say you're trying to figure out how to put both together. So I know you haven't fully figured it out, but can you just give us a little bit of how you started bringing both of those together so that we can have a practical example for people to say, well, all of this, it sounds so abstract. Can you kind of bring it a little closer together for us?
Definitely. So I think one of the skill sets that being in business with my learned brilliance taught me is just life lessons, right? So there are basic things that you're going to need in any business, regardless of what you do. How do you communicate effectively with clients? How do you communicate effectively with staff? How do you set goals? How do you manage accounts well, right? Like, what are the basic tenets of a good business person, a good human being, right? Like, how do you run your life effectively and you apply it to business? And so I think that I've learned that over the years, and that's automatically going to translate now as I move into this space of training and development. And I would hope that people just kind of look at their life to see what are the lessons here that are a bigger picture. So you remember that I said to you that my degrees are actually in international studies and political science, totally different from training and development, totally different from marketing and public relations.
Yeah.
But what I learned while studying those degrees, those principles could be applied anywhere, right? That's how do I work with a group to get a group project done? How do I research, right? So even if I'm looking up stuff for the market now, or I'm looking at new and creative ways to develop things, how can I use my creative skills and put it into a presentation? So what are the skill sets that I could take from my learned brilliance and now apply them to the thing that I was born to do? And I think that that's helpful because sometimes if you're operating alone in born brilliance, right, and you've created a hobby, the pressure that comes from trying to turn that hobby into a business can turn you away from the hobby. So I think it's almost a blessing if you spend time kind of operating in both roles, where you get to have learned maybe the harder lessons and the thing that's a bit harder for you to do. And you get to apply those hard lessons now into the thing that you were born to do and come so naturally. And then you get to marry the two. So for me now, I'm at the point where even as I work to like edit my LinkedIn, and I just had, interestingly enough, an offer from a company today to come in and be director of marketing. And I turned it down because it's just where I see myself going, Dr. V. So I could, do the thing that I was doing before I found my brilliance and wanted to share it and go and work for someone else and do the 9 to 5, or I could commit fully to where I see my life going. And so I had to tell them no, but I said to them, I've been doing this work in training and development. If you guys ever need anyone to come in and lead a session, it would be my pleasure to show you that side of my portfolio, right? And so you can also utilize the clients and the people that have used you in the past and appreciated your brilliance in one area to highlight and showcase how you're now doing that in another area, right? And so you don't have to lose anything in the process, but you do have to be certain that of the direction that you want to go, and then figure out how can I take the skill sets from this other part of my life and add it to here, and then take one step at a time to get there.
Oh, that is perfect. You've given so many examples in that. I realized one way that I help mostly women, and a few men have come my way, is going from resume to reinvention, and that's really what started this whole new STEAM optimization thing that I'm talking about, and the whole Brilliance thing is because a lot of us are degreed up, certified up, credentialed up, and we feel this inner calling to pull us from somewhere, but we don't want to divorce or run away from. But I put all this time into building my resume. So I think you said it so brilliantly to say how you use your skills going from resume to reinvention. It's like I can do that, but let me show you how I can support you instead of going back to a traditional 9 to 5, because that's your zone of excellence, not your zone of genius. And I fought with that too. It's like I'll see these jobs, and I was like, you know what? I really it would be a lot easier if I just come over there. And I was like, but I don't even feel it. But I didn't do what you did. And I like what you said. I may not take this particular job, but this is how I can help you. So
Mhm.
for all of you listening out there, if you're like, okay, if you ventured over into this entrepreneurial space and you have this resume, I would say try that approach, because I am going to do that, because it is tempting to want to say, you know what, forget all this. I can do this. But all
Yeah.
right, that's another conversation for another day. So we talk about going to another level, the next level. And again, that's something that's still so abstract for people. And I know I say it all the time. I hope you go to your next level. But it's like, what does that mean? So for you, when you say next level, or you've gone to your next level, can you give us a practical example of what that means, and or what that looks like?
So I think that there is no one clear-cut answer for all people. So I want to make that really clear
Hmm.
that each of our journeys is going to be different. And what looks like the next level for us may actually be going parallel, right? It may be taking a job that's along the same lines, or along the same pay scale, but in a different space or a different environment. Next level just means, as I'm on this progress in this journey of life, what are the things that I've set out to achieve? What is the purpose that I think is a part of my life? And how am I just taking a next step to get there, right? And so there's this picture going around the internet right now of this girl who showed like her apartment with her mattress on the floor. And then next to it, she shows her mattress like on a bed, and she's like progress. And everybody's like celebrating that, because that is progress, right? To
Okay.
be able to not have had a bed a month ago and you've worked and saved and now you have one is a big deal. And so
Mhm.
I think for me, it's really about saying, where do I want my life to end up? Or what do I want the things, what things do I want to be involved in it? And then how do I go about achieving that step by step? So lots of people do vision boards, and I'm a big fan of vision boards myself. And, I just encourage people to think about the categories, right? Normally there are 5 of them. People talk about family, people talk about faith and spirituality, people talk about fitness and health. There's another one around like friends, and then one around fun. And I think that those are really good categories to say, well, what do I want my life to look like in these spaces, right? And then based on that, you get to determine, which one do I want to do right now? So, for example, Dr. V, one of the things that I hope to share with your audience is something called a who, what, when. And a who, what, when is just a goal sheet that I kind of do. Lets me say, okay, this is who I'm working with on this particular thing as it relates to goal in my mind. This is what we plan to do, and this is when we want to happen by, right? And so it just is a target, like a measurable success tool that you can use to say, if it is that I said by next year I want to have my doctorate, or next year I want to start the process of getting my doctorate, then where am I with that process, right? And so next level just depends on you, and it depends on what you want your life to be like. But what I don't want you to do, that I was doing for a really long time, is taking life as it came to me and then being frustrated by that, right, Dr. V?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I want something different, but I'm not doing anything different. Did I get it?
Oh my
Nope, because
goodness.
I'm not going after it. Right? Why'd they get it? Not me. Well, did they do something that you didn't do? So,
Hmm.
like, a lot of us are really just, we're really good. We're really talented. And so we
Yeah.
expect people to just give us stuff, but that's just not the way it works. You have to sow to reap. And so you just want to be sowing intentionally. Where do I want my life to be in 5 years? Where do I want my life to be in 10 years? what step can I take today that's going to get me there in 5 years, right? And so we put that pressure on ourselves as well, Dr. B. It's a 5-year goal. We ain't do nothing this month. We upset that the goal ain't happened. Like, no, like it, and Dr. B, this has been a revolutionary thing for me, right? Like in the last 3 years, one of my biggest lessons is seasons and time, and like pitting my time and taking my time and knowing that I'm taking one step at a time and the staircase is unfolding as it goes. And the final point I'll make on that, Dr. V, I think it was Bill Gates who said, many of us underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years and overestimate what we can achieve in a year.
Yep.
So like, you just got to pace yourself out. Nothing is microwavable, right? Like, not success. You take one step at a time. Make sure it's an intentional step. Sometimes you'll make a mistake. Okay, what can you learn from this? And then how can you pivot so that you get back into it? For me, faith is huge. And I'm just grateful that I worship a God that I believe fully expands time for me. Right? And if he promised it, if he put it in my heart and I'm working toward it, Dr. B, it's going to come to pass. It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely. You said a lot there. I know we share the same coach, and she always talks about these needlepoint moves. And I remember I was like, I don't operate in needlepoint moves. Like, this is why I have all these degrees. I got them fast. Like, come on, let's go. Let's hurry up. So when you said the progress and you gave the example about the young lady with the mattress on the floor, and then, it's up one level, that's an example of a needlepoint move. But I know for me, mattress on the floor, I need the whole room furnished. That's my next level. But then it's like, wait a minute. When you think back, and I use a lot of examples of education and degrees, it's like, well, you didn't apply to college and automatically get your degree. And just looking back on it, it seemed like it was quick, but it really wasn't. So I know for a lot of us who are high achievers, highly ambitious, we think that it's quick. But if we take a step back and it was like, no, it took us years. So why do we expect something outside of that to happen automatically? So I love that you said that about the time and pacing yourself. That doesn't mean be lazy and wait, but
No.
it means like, okay, I don't even want to say be realistic, but it's like, it's not microwavable. And I think you gave a great example
I
of
want to say,
that.
it's like, it's not in your time. All you can do is do the work and show up. And then whether you want, I call it God, some people refer to it as the universe, but like, things can happen exponentially, right?
Yeah.
So you've been working and grinding forever, and then all of a sudden you're this big thing. And I ask people to think a lot about that, even in terms of celebrities or singers. Because like Beyonce, I remember when she lost Star Search. I remember sitting down in my old front room with the big box TV, and
Yes.
like, my dad, this was so long ago that my daddy still had a record player right next to the old TV, and like watching them on Star Search and her lose. And now she's Beyonce, but she's been doing that since she was 6, right? And so it's like, we have to just appreciate that because of all the work that you've put in, the moment that the opportunity arrives, if you've prepared yourself for it, the possibility for exponential growth is like crypto, right? Like, it can just blow up in a day.
Yes.
But you've got to just be doing the work and getting there, so that when that moment of, well, who's this girl and where'd she come from arrives, everybody can be like, oh my God, she's been doing this work forever, right? And so I think that's it, Dr. V. It's just waiting on timing, which will come to pass when it's time.
Yes, I love it. Now we're going to transition into you've heard all of Star's background and things like that, but how I know Star is one great speaker and communicator, but she's really good on camera. And that is one of the skill sets when I'm talking about my STEAM optimization and then moving from Résumé to Reinvention. Now understanding her background and how she got here, she's really, I think, reinvented herself as being this on-camera expert. So can you talk to us about that whole process or area?
Yeah, definitely. So it's funny that we talk about what we were just talking about, right? Perfect timing. Because I actually ended up being a television host. So I'm still a TV host. I'm about to retire from this particular gig,
Oh,
but
wow.
going into
Okay.
something else, hopefully. Yeah, it's a time of transition for me, Dr. V, but God is good. And so again, skill sets, right? I believe in excellence. So if I'm going to show up anywhere, I'm going to be prepared for what I do. And I just think that that's how we all ought to operate in life. We won't know everything, but if we show up as prepared as we can be, it allows us a level of confidence. And that's what I teach my camera students as well. Like, don't be nervous. Think about this stuff before you go. Don't just show up and speak. Like, Dr. V is so, Dr. V is Dr. V, right? Like, she didn't get here by just playing around. So she's got a process. She got questions. She got like You're gonna meet me on this day. This is what we're gonna do. She's very organized like that. But that's how we ought to be in our own ways. And so I ended up becoming the television host for the premier television show in the Bahamas, which is called Bahamas at Sunrise, because I actually went to do an interview. Somebody again was looking for someone who would talk a lot. They'd actually called my husband because he was in a program called Toastmasters. And he was like, I'm not coming on to talk about nothing. My wife will stop talking. Why don't y'all let her go? And it was like about unions. And this is how God works all things together for the good. When I was at college here in the Bahamas, I was the president of the student union. So this was a conversation around unions and teaching and education. And so they invited me on. The weekend before I went up here, I like called 4 different union leaders. Like I went over the laws. Like I really wanted to know. This was like a 7-minute interview, Dr. B.
Wow.
Right? My thing was I'm gonna come on and be my best. And I did so well in that interview that afterward, the owner of the show came and found me, and we had a conversation. And she just asked, would you ever want to guest host sometimes? And so I went on to be a guest host for about 3 months, and then I became the full-time host, and I've been there for 9 years. Wow. And in that, I didn't even recognize my brilliance. So when I came to this campus, Dr. V, and Lisa was like, "You're gonna teach on camera," and I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't." And she's like, "You've been a host for 9 years. And what you talking about, Star? Like I interviewed you. You interviewed me on camera. Of course you're gonna teach on camera." And so again, if you're still in that place where you're thinking, "Well, I'm not brilliant," that's a lie that the enemy is telling you to stop you from seeing who you truly are. And just ask yourself, what am I doing so consistently that it doesn't even occur to me how brilliant I am, because it's so natural to me. And then start to think about that process. So some tips for camera. Yeah. You want to be on camera because it's the best way to be seen, period, right? If you go to a networking event and you have to walk around and meet each person individually, that can be a bit of a drag, unless you're really a bubbly person and that's what you love to do. Most of us aren't. Most of us don't want to. But if you become the speaker in the room, now all of a sudden people come to you, right? And so that's one way to do it, because you're in a room full of speakers. But when you show up on camera, you're giving the world the opportunity to see you. Like you have no idea how far reaching just one video or one thing you do can be. But think about the time you spend now consuming video content, right? Whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, whether it's a podcast like this one, we are constantly consuming video. I know whenever I want to find out anything, how to put something together, how to make something, the first thing I do is Google it and I click on the video. I don't want to read nothing. No. Show me that. Right, Dr. B? Yeah. And so if we think about that, we just recognize that video is everywhere. Statistically speaking, if you have video on your homepage, you're more likely to get hits. If you have video on a sales page, you're more likely to get sales. If you have video of a product that you're selling, people are more likely to buy that product, right? And these are just stats. And so we really want to begin to see, how can I show up in this? If you're talking about reinventing a resume, the best way to do that is to come on and share video with us, share content with us about the things that you're doing now. If you want to appear as an expert in something, then video content is the way to go, right? And then long term, just think about the longevity of what it is that you want out there in the world. Video content is going to be the thing that lasts beyond you. So we still get to watch, right now, everybody is all up in a tizzy about the Queen, right? And so we keep seeing videos of her coronation. Well, if there was no video of the coronation, it'd be less relevant and we can compare nothing. And that, but video allows us that opportunity to continuously take a look back at the past, to continuously see how we're growing into the future. And most of all, to reach our ideal clients. So it's something that I really encourage people to do. It can be very frightening, Dr. V, but if you train your mind to ask yourself, who is this going to help? Yeah. Right? And how much is this going to help them? How much is video content, like the content Dr. V has provided me, helped me? And then you realize that it's bigger than you. That's one way to start to train your mind to realize that you've got to show up. Even if it's just Zoom and a camera light, you don't need anything fancy. You can get fancy if you want to. And I've got some resources at homeofstars.com if you want to. But really, it's all about this phone right here and you recording your message and sharing it with the world.
Yes, I love all of that. I wish I would have met you on that particular thing those years ago, because I was like, I can get on stage and talk to people, but it was something about coming on camera. I was like, oh my gosh. But it was that little tick of, who's this going to help, and just building. I started saying, well, this is a legacy of people. Like I have this long resume, but who's really going to read it? So that's the one way I started to just get on and just start talking to myself about things that I had done. And then it slowly evolved. So I'm glad you said that. And I think a lot of people who are brilliant, the people that I come in contact with, it's like you have all of this knowledge, and it's great. Like in our field, you write resumes, you write articles, or you do research projects, or you write books. but then what else? No one outside of our area is going to see that, and it could be beneficial for someone else, and it's through camera. So I thank you for that. That is awesome. So very quickly, we talked about a coach. You kind of dropped it in a little bit. Tell me, with all of your success that you had prior to coming, well, we call it campus. If you don't know, the our coach, she has a, we just call it a campus of things. But with everything that you had already accomplished, you were already brilliant, you were already doing things. What was something that made you say, I think I need some extra support in the way of having a coach in the personal development space?
I felt, I don't want to say empty because that wasn't the feeling. I'm looking for the word, Dr. V. Something was missing though, right? And I have faith in God. So I have this relationship there. Great. Got a husband, love him to death, absolute best friend in my life. Great. Got a house, absolutely beautiful, blessed to be in it because I didn't grow up incredibly wealthy. So it's just like a blessing to see where I am now. Great. Just gave birth to a beautiful daughter. Couldn't ask for more. Legit, only wanted a daughter. My husband's family is all boys, so that alone was a blessing. Like I got my girl, like God is looking out for me, like blessed, right? And yet with all of that, it was like there's something's not right. Like, and I don't want to be in this space where something's not right because I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful. But God, I'm not doing something right. And again, my faith is such a driving factor in my life, Dr. V, that I can't come to the end of my life and have had that feeling because then I would have wasted, to my mind, my life. I don't care how good of a mom I am. I don't care how good of a wife I am. If I don't do this thing that I know is missing from me, then that's going to be a problem. And I knew that I needed to be speaking more. I knew that I wanted to let the light shine, right? But I had been so busy hiding it for so long that I wasn't sure the way that I could show up and do that. And so it really was by divine providence that I met our coach, Lisa Nichols. And just coming to her campus was a leap of faith. I had never invested in my personal development. And Lisa's a pretty penny, you know, so she ain't cheap.
Yeah.
And so when she told me advice, I was like, what? But I was worth it, right? And I think we have to remember that you are worth it. You are worth whatever the investment is in order to come to the next level of yourself. And for me, that next level was simply just looking to see how can I get away from this feeling and fully embrace who I am. And I didn't know what that would necessarily look like. I just knew that I had to do something different. Everything I'd been doing before hadn't worked. So if it's going to take a couple $1,000s and me saying yes and me trusting me, then I'm going to go for it. And Dr. V, that one decision just changed my life. And so I just think, you know, you can have the things, like there's a checklist lots of people have of what we think success looks like. But if at the core of your being, there's an emptiness, if at the core of your being, you feel like you're not making the most of your time, you're not making the most of your gifts and your talents, then you have to seek new areas, new avenues, new places, new spaces, new people, and watch that gift expand.
Exactly. And I love that you said that because I've come across people, and if you're listening, you're probably like this. Well, you may have shared that you wanted more, but then people look around and say, well, what more could you possibly want? So Star is a great example of the checklist, or well, we say American dream. Star is not in America, but you know, people say, you know, the American dream of all of that, and she had that. But then there was still something inside of her like, wait a minute. So I want you, if you're listening, don't feel bad about wanting more, even if people say, well, you have it all. So that was a great example. Star, so I'm glad you shared that with us. So we're coming to the end, and two more things. So one, my STEAM optimization is skills, time, energy, ambition, and money. So I want you to just do some rapid fire advice in these areas, whatever comes to your mind on how people can up level or up level in these areas. So the first one is skill set.
Go and do a recertification in something.
Okay, love it. Okay, time.
Spend more of it with family, or those you love, who you consider family. It doesn't have to be blood, but those are the people that you will miss the most if they leave you, and they're really the only ones that matter.
Energy.
Protect it at all costs. No negative vibes.
Ambition.
The more of it, the better. But you have to remember to give yourself grace.
Money.
Money worships me. No, that song, my good friend Tony Jones, she has a song called "Money Worships Me," and it's a reminder that money is a tool, right? And if you just threw it on the floor, could do nothing with it, nobody cared about it, then it wouldn't matter. So you're the gift, you're the money, you're the wealth, right? And the more that you invest in you, show up for you, then the more the money will come to you.
I love it. I try not to interject. I have so many things to say. I love it also. Okay, I love that. So you do a lot of camera work with individuals, and I know people can say, well, I can go to anybody or I can watch anything on YouTube. But what makes stars so unique that if someone wants to come work with you about being, well, just tell us, what do you call it? You call it something specific.
What, confidence?
Yes. I mean, that's unique in itself, but tell us a little bit about that and why, like, what's the pulling factor, the driving force to working with you?
Well, I think I bring to my work a level of humility and understanding. One of the biggest fears that people have around camera is how they look. There are two things that show up consistently: how will I look, and then how will people receive me? And those are two things I've battled. Right? We can't really necessarily tell it from this shot, but I am not the average size of the average person that you see on television, and so I've had to like deal with people making comments about my weight, or me just making comments in my own head about why I shouldn't show up because I'm too big or I'm dealing with those issues, right? And so I think I come from that place of understanding that that is a real thing and I will never diminish that. And I can give you all the technical things, but because I'm also a transformational coach, I understand how to work with you in terms of your emotions and your mindset so that we can remove those blockages that stop you from showing up. And then I've also battled that idea of the fear of people, the fear of rejection. Remember, I talked about, hiding my light, hiding my brilliance, because for me in the past, it was always that I would be rejected by those I wanted to be friends with and those I wanted to be liked by. And so I've had to work on tools that help me to overcome that. And so when I teach camera confidence, of course, we're going to go over some of the technical things that anybody can find anywhere, certainly. But of course, I found it for you, so you don't have to look anywhere because you get it all with me. But we're also going to deal with, understanding your why, understanding who needs you, understanding who that ideal person is out there that you're talking to, that one person in a million seats, right? And just giving you the tools to feel confident enough about yourself so that you can feel confident enough to show up on camera with the tools that are readily available, like how to write scripts and how to set up your lights and how to have good audio. That's the basic stuff. The real work is internal in order for you to show up visually. And so I think that that's what I bring, Dr. V, that maybe some of the other camera coaches out there do not.
I love it. And one part of why I was so strategic about having people that I wanted to interview and be a part of my circle is because I know how to do certain things. I call myself the brilliant solutionist because I like to give answers to people's problems. I like to solve problems. And if I'm working with a client and I can see that it's a camera issue, if that's not something I want to take on, I love to have resources available that I trust and know can get results. So there you have it. If you're coming to me and I'm like, and we're working together and it's like, hey, you need to get on camera. Can I do those things? Yes, but that is not my zone of genius. And I have someone available for you. So thank you for sharing that. I know some people have asked me, well, why do you highlight other people or why are you allowing other people to talk about themselves? And it's like, one, because I don't want to do all the things. And two, I think we all have genius inside of us that is that synergy. And if we're working together, we can be a dynamic force. So, last and final thing, you can say however you feel about this. The question is, do you believe brilliance is a privilege and why or why not?
Hmm. I think to own your brilliance is a type of privilege because we all have it in us, right? Like everybody everywhere is born with something. I truly believe that. The privilege happens when you either get to do one of the two paths that you laid out. Have people cultivate it so that you know that it exists and therefore you recognize that you were born with it, or have the privilege of learning more about it and going to places like our campus and having exposure, right? Going to university and having exposure. Those things are straight up privilege, Dr. V. There are some people, there's a woman on our campus who had recently adopted a kid from India, and she's, I think, 8 or 9, had never been to school, right? And so when you talk about privilege, just this ability to communicate online, that's a privilege. So I think brilliance is definitely inherited, but the ability to shine that light and to grow into it and to cultivate it more so that you are able to make a living from it, that is all privilege. But this is why I'm so passionate about camera, because as the world continues to grow and expand, more people are intent on getting the internet into the hands of those that don't have it. And some people that may never get a chance to go to a campus, whether it's college or elementary school, they might find your video. And so if you can continue to share your brilliance, and even make it available in ways that are like this ones that are free, right? You just give the opportunity for somebody else to turn on the light and find their own. So it's a privilege. And as a result of that privilege, we ought to be showing up in spaces where more people can have access to their brilliance.
Wow, that was beautifully said. And I try to keep it neutral, so I'm not going to share my thoughts. I'm going to say that was beautifully said. So thank you. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I love doing this because, like I said, Star and I have been in the same like circles for a few years, and it's like, wow, and I get to learn more and more about her. So I'm so excited. Well, thank you so much for listening and watching and learning with me today, because I've also learned a lot about Star herself and about using camera more. And now I have this bigger drive to do more videos on camera, because I love the way Star set that up and how she connected that to Brilliance. So let us know your comments down below. Again, if you want to reach out to Star and get some support in that area, I will have all of her information down below. I encourage you to do that as soon as possible. And thank you so much, Star, for joining me today. And I want you all to remember, as you end your day, wherever you are, remember to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye.